Hello, and welcome to the Devonport Camera Club's Projected Images 5 competition results. The competition was judged by Peter O'Brien, and the club thanks him for his insights and informative feedback. 7 colour entries were not accepted, and so remain eligible for entry in future competitions. Baker's Beach Aurora by Stephen Matthews. The aurora has been a wonderful experience for many a photographer, and the author has had a great experience here. The shutter speed has been slow, but fast enough to stop movement. I would have liked to see the huts get more light painting to show some features rather than a silhouette, but this may be the author's choice to showcase the aurora. Condominium Creek, Subsurface 312 by David Bluedorn. The author has seen something that they wanted to capture, but it is not clear to the viewer what we are looking at. It could be a created abstract or something found in nature. The bright white squiggles in the middle top seem disconnected, as all the other white streaks are going out of the page along with the viewer's eye. There are dark areas that isolate the orange and green on the right, and so I question if this is needed. If I could understand what the image is supposed to be about. Flowing Between the Rocks by Gil Hayes. I wavered with this one. What does the author want the viewer to see? Is it the coloured rocks in the foreground? Is it the hill in the background? This looks like a landscape shot where the author has picked foreground elements, a leading line with rocks in the middle ground, and then the hill in the background. With the rocks so big, they seem to say that they are the subject, as they are way too dominant. If this is a local scene, then try again. Pelican by Bob Goodwin. The pelican is overexposed in the neck and upper body flank. The water is properly exposed and the white water has only a slight amount of blowout. Is this a composite or has the pelican been processed separately from the water? Ready to Race by Baden Smith. A record shot of the penny farthing cyclists. The scene is very busy, and the two cyclists are not isolated, with the girl approaching from the right. Interesting, but not a strong image. Red Damselfly by Stephen Matthews. This image is way underexposed. The whole image can be lightened in post-processing, and then the damselfly could get further treatment to bring out all its glory. A missed opportunity. Silver Eye by David Hunter. I am giving the author another chance with this image, as it is a beautiful shot of the silver eye. The bird and the background are well shot and processed. The second chance is to tone down the brightness of the branch it is perched on, perhaps about halfway or more to the depth of the shadows at the bottom right of that branch. Currently, that brightness is drawing the viewer's eye away from the silver eye. 14 colour entries were given an acceptance. Aloka by Tony Sablewski. The eyes draw the viewer into the image and give engagement with the viewer. They are nice and sharp with catchlight in each eye. The hand twirling the hair is a nice touch. The colours of the dress complement the model. The background may have been replaced and there is a slight but noticeable vignette. A well-presented portrait. As Evening Comes by Rob Dawkins. A very colourful sunset with great colours on the horizon and then fading into the upper sky. This means that the upper half of the sky is much less interesting than the lower half below the lowest bank of dark cloud. The left side of the foreground is basically scattered trees on the horizon with grasses in front. The subject is the nicely obscured sun and the rays lighting up the bushes at the base of the dead tree. There is detail in the foreground that seems to be getting lost in darker tones caused by the brighter sky when processed. Cutie by Julie Phillips. The author did well to get down low to capture this cute paddymmelon. The paws tucked in add to the story. The focal length has the foreground and background out of focus, so a good choice. The leaves in the top right are distracting and, being an open competition, could be removed if the author has the skills. If not, then the crop has been well chosen. Dust If You Must by Anne Starkey. I almost gave this a not acceptance, as the whites in the image are bordering on being blown out, and some are. This is an image where the author needs to underexpose by about 2/3 of a stop to prevent those blowouts. If you are using a semi-automatic mode, then this is what the EV button is for. I could give a whole lecture on this, and I am disappointed for the author for seeing an interesting subject matter and composition, but then overexposing. Those white tops of the screw tops should have detail. For the non-white areas, the dust and the age of the cellared bottles show up well. Some look like they are too far gone to drink now. Full Noise by Brad Stagg. The spinebill has been well captured, though I would have liked more detail around the eye. The background looks very even, and so I wonder if the background was cut out and replaced with a solid colour. If so, then the author did a great job. If natural, then it does look a bit fake, like a studio shot. Great Day Ahead by Darryl Starkey. The mountains are the hero of the image, and so do we need the grassy slope in the bottom third of the image. There is nothing there of interest. The sky has some yellow in the clouds, which adds interest. The mountains themselves have a variety of colours due to the sunlight and shadows. An interesting image that could be made stronger by cropping just below the lower fence. It's Cold This Morning by Tony Soblewski. The old bridge with handy ledges for the pigeons to roost upon. The bridge is well exposed and the pigeons are clear enough, but the sky is washed out and largely blank. The author has considered the crop, with the bottom of the bridge standing in the left corner, but the rising slope is drawing the eye out of the frame, though the final vertical does tend to be a bit of a barrier. John by Margaret Soblewski. An engaging smile and the eyes are connecting with the author and hence the viewer. The flat lighting on the face and the catch lights make me wonder if this was an on-camera flash. The depth of field is adequate and the teeth and moustache are sharp with a lot of detail. I find that the eyes are not as sharp as I would have expected. The background is a plain grey drapery that suits the image. Lighthouse Milky Way 2 by Stephen Matthews. I think that the story here is a vertical portrait in the middle of the frame, as the left and right quarters don't have any detail of interest. The Milky Way is barely visible above the cloud cover, and the lighthouse rim up near the light looks soft. The horizontal light beams emanating appear to point up to the Milky Way, and maybe this is what captured the imagination of the author. Mellow Yellow by Brad Stagg. Many judges would say that a light background draws the eye away from the subject, but I do this a lot with my birds. In this instance, it is let down by the underexposure of the yellow-tailed cockatoo. There is a lot more detail in the front that can be brought out, and it is this detail that is necessary to overpower the bright background. Splash 3 by Stephen Matthews. The skill in this shot is the many failed attempts and successes that have preceded it. I see a number of these and appreciate that great shots don't happen at first attempt. There is a bit of softness to the image, and I do find the highlights from the soft boxes a bit distracting. I am assuming that the author has left these bright distractions deliberately, but it does not work for me. Steampunk Pink by Leanne Cowan. I find the pink too overpowering for me. Perhaps some contrast to get some changes may help. The face has been well captured, and it does look like a bright day, as the three corners do show this. Perhaps the top left corner could have been either darkened down or given a treatment like the bottom right. The Ladybird by Julie Phillips. The ladybug is the hero of the image, but it is so small in the frame. This does give the subject an environmental context, but do we need so much? I have looked at a number of cropping scenarios, and I'm assuming that this is all the pixels that the author has. If you have more to the top and right, consider an angled crop between the left leaf edge and the bud, and then up under the bottom leaf edge. If you cannot do this, then the crop that you have is about as good as it gets. The blue flowers are a bit soft. Where to Next by Jenny King. I like the main subject, but I don't like the background. There does not appear to be any depth to the blur, and it is also a bit bright. The subject has been well exposed, and the raised shoe and just enough of the bag have been captured. The guy looks to be in thought, and this adds to the story. All the posters can be distracting as the viewer tends to read any text on display, but in this instance it is part of the story. 9 colour entries were given a highly commended. Bamberg Town Hall by Mike Jones. The twin bridges in a European town have been well captured by the author. As there are a couple of people on the bridge, the author chose a shutter speed to restrict their movement, which overcame the temptation to turn the whites in the river more milky. The buildings are sharp, and there is a lot of pattern and repetition. My only concern is on the right side. Is the tree and building to the right needed, as this part does not add to the story contained in just the bridges spanning the river? Carpenter Bee by Bob Goodwin. A wonderful capture of this bee in flight, with its wings showing motion blur, but with the body sharp. The crop has shown the key part of the flower, as our brains can fill in the rest. The top crop looks to have encompassed the top left leaf tip, and I think this is the right choice. The negative space to the left can be argued to be unnecessary, or that it shows where the bee has come from. We know the author's choice, which has resulted in a great image. Feeding Time by David Hunter. The silver eye is amongst the buds. There are so many buds that the silver eye could have got lost, but the author has managed to get the focal point on the bird, which has rendered the buds near and far out of focus. Whilst there is a lot of foliage around the silver eye, I am not going to suggest a crop, as this provides an environmental context. Gallery Ennui by David Bluedorn. This is a well-seen image that may be set up or found. Either way, there is a strong feeling of disconnect between the mother, daughter, and the father. Perhaps tired of looking around? One wants to go home? I wondered about the couple on the right. They may be adding to the story by being oblivious to the family standoff. The family is a little soft and there is some noise in the image, but it is a great story. Gibson Falls No. 3 by Gil Hayes. I love the brown colour of the water, and this colour contrasts with the green in the image. The rock in the foreground leads the eye to the falls, and there is no bright light at the top of the image, so well cropped. The foliage on the left and right frame the image. The waterfall is too milky for me, and there are many areas that have blown out as a result of the slow shutter speed, particularly above the green grasses on the right side. The excessive milkiness means a loss of detail in the water, and current thinking is that it is better to have some definition in the water while still having a milky look. A great image, but do think of the need for such a slow shutter speed. He's Under There by Leanne Cowan. The experienced bull rider, who's wearing a hat rather than a helmet, is getting brought to safety by the safety team. As is typical, there is a lot of dust, and this has largely obscured the fallen rider, but we do know that he is in danger of being trampled nevertheless. The cropping is tight, as is needed for these types of images, but there is a blue patch in the right corner that could be eliminated by bringing the bottom right corner up and to the left a little. The author may have wanted as much dust as possible, but this has left an unnecessary distraction. The Ginger Lives Matter makes me wonder if the safety guy is a redhead, but there may be another explanation. Market Feast by Jenny King. I like the light in this image, although the top of the hat is obscured by the dark shadow. I like that the light picks up the details of the story from the face down to the little bucket with the toothpicks. I am being a bit picky, but the distraction in the bottom left could be cropped out with no loss to the main story. An interesting image and well spotted. Mountain Homestead by Baden Smith. This image puzzled me with the apparent lack of shadows, which gave it an HDR look. But the sun is high, in the cloudless sky, the shadows that are discernible are expected for this high noon type of shot. There is a lot of detail and texture in the old building. The shadows on the near side get deeper as the eye travels towards the back and under the porch. The corners of the yard have been cropped off, and that is okay because we know that they are there, and a larger crop would have shown too much of the surrounding woodland. An image that you can spend time looking around. Proud Mum by Darryl Starkey. It is clear that the author wants the viewer to concentrate on Mum, as the ducklings appear to be deliberately put out of focus. Was this a plan or a poor choice of f-stop? Mum is beautifully sharp and, although the ducklings are slightly out of focus, the family story is still there. If the author had more pixels to the right, a panoramic view with more space to the right and less from the top would have given Mum more room to move into. A nice image. 2 colour entries were given a Merit Award. Chameleon by Mike Jones. I like this colour variation that the camellia is displaying for the author. The greens and yellows contrast enough with the darker green leaves to show the detail down the length of the body. The white head immediately draws attention to a face only a mother could love, and there are no blown out areas. The textures are exquisite, and the author was well placed to get the chameleon side on so that it can be shown in its full glory. Floating Along by Rob Dawkins. Initially I thought that the back of the neck and the white area on the back closest to the neck were blown out, but on closer inspection there is detail in those backlit areas. The image has been well exposed, with detail showing on the pelican's near side, given the light source. The reflection is a nice touch. Should have been a little more room for the pelican to move into, perhaps? No colour honours were awarded. 5 monochrome entries were not accepted, and so remain eligible for entry in future competitions. A Walk in the Park by Margaret Soblewski. The author has been out to capture the foggy morning, perhaps with the friend on the landing. But what is the subject that they want the viewer to see? The silhouette of the man walking his dog, the birds, the person on the landing, or the foggy river scene? If it is the man, he is virtually lost in the darks, but may have some detail that can be recovered. I suspect that it is the foggy river scene, and if so, do we need as much of the bottom part of the image just below the closest bird? And the foggy scene is very flat tonally, and so does not hold the viewer's attention. Hand Walking by Julie Phillips. This is a grab shot of the young child doing a handstand. There is a small addition with the boy looking at the author, but the background is cluttered and the other 2 children are looking away. A well-spotted and perhaps rehearsed image. On the Nose by Jenny King. Perhaps an opportune shot of a different angle for a horse shot. The nose is sharp and the depth of field means that the areas of less interest have become suitably softer. The mouth is quite dark though. There is a very bright spot on the left of the face. The eyes are in shadow and soft. An interesting and opportune capture, but not strong. Trees in the Mist, number 3, by Gil Hayes. This image has initial impact until you start exploring. The tree itself has an HDR look about it, and it seems out of context with the softer background. And it is that background that is showing in front of the small tree where the fallen branch hits the ground, and the bottom of the branch tips on the left, and there are other areas. If I am reading the post-processing correctly, then I have also missed small parts in the masking, and so you need to investigate every part of the subject. Winter by Margaret Soblewski. I look at this image and wonder what the author wants the viewer to see. We have a uniform wall of weeping branches with a foggy river scene behind. Is it the weeping branches that captivated the author? Or was this a type of framing for the foggy scene? Either way, it does not work for me. 8 monochrome entries were given an acceptance. Black and White Reflections by Stephen Matthews. Now this image has contrast. It has darks but not too many highlights and whites. This means that the trees on the riverbank are getting lost in the darkest tonal range. For me, the story is the trees and the reflections. So a much tighter crop from the left edge, across just above the tallest tree, and the right side is the gap just to the left of the second last row of trees. And the bottom is just below the reflected tree tops. Then increase the exposure so that there is much more tonal range. There is a good image waiting to get out. Ella the Wild Child by Leanne Cowan. The young girl has a connection with the viewer with the over-the-shoulder pose and direct gaze. The light is coming from the right, and this may be natural light. The background has many bright areas that distract. I am not sure if the author has tried to darken the background, as there are some very bright areas in the gaps in the hair and body. The background needs to be darker and the girl brighter so that the viewer's attention stays on the subject. And the image is soft and the focus has missed the eyes, which are crucial to this image. Flooded River by Rob Dawkins. The author has selected the stump as a foreground interest, and there are dead trees and dark treetops in the background. This all works well, but there are too many dead trees. There are 3 or 4 trees that provide the main interest, and a crop just to the right of the rightmost tree of interest will simplify this image. The tonal range works, but I would make the tallest tree a bit brighter to help the viewer transition from the stump to the dead trees of interest. I think that tweaking the suggested middle ground would transform this image. Meander River Mist by Tony Sablewski. Another foggy river scene, and this time there are no distractions apart from the house on the left. Is it needed? The author appears to have been captivated by the sun hidden by the fog, which has resulted in a very soft glow. And the reflection has a stronger sun with a large feather fading into the river. There are darks and highlights, but the bulk of the image is mid-grey. But I guess this is the nature of fog. It simply has a low contrast. My Man by Baden Smith. There is engagement between the woman and the viewer, but the man is looking away, and this has had a big impact on the interpretation of the image. The woman has been well captured, but the man's clothing and rifle have highlights that should have been addressed. Peter by Bob Goodwin. I keep looking at this image and I think that there was or is potential depending on the data captured. The left side of the face is overly bright with a loss of detail and so may not be recoverable. The right side of the face has some light, from a reflector perhaps. The eyes are looking towards us, but they are in shadow and so get lost. The background is suitably muted and there is separation with the subject. Tassie Weekender by Daryl Starkey. The derelict hut and fallen down parts do provide a story. The escarpment behind provides an environmental context suggesting a remoteness in the location. The tonal range is basically mid-grey, and there are no strong blacks and whites. The sky is washed out, and so there is no detail there. I think that there is a better image lurking here if the author can get more contrast. Yen by Anne Starkey. The eyes are sharp and strangely dilated, with a strange look about the cornea. Perhaps some form of contact lenses? The rest of the face is largely soft. Whilst there is a tonal separation of the subject to the background, there is a ghostly rim down the right side. 5 monochrome entries were awarded highly commended. First Gig by Brad Stagg. The young girl has engaged with the author both with her gaze and the finger pointing. The outfit suits a performance, and there are some highlights on the trousers that could be removed, as they do draw the eye. The background is very dark, and that may have been the author's balancing for the whites in the shirts and the brights on the trousers. But this has resulted in the girl being lost in the low-key image. I think that the upper body and guitar could be highlighted a bit so that she stands out more against the background. Budapest Parliament House by Mike Jones. This is a well-taken image of the European Cathedral at night. It is sharp throughout. There is slight movement in the water that softens the reflection, and this provides a textural difference that enhances the image for me. As the length of the building is tonally the same, the viewer's eye does not have a place to settle. The dome and adjacent spires provide a frame for the dome, and the author could try darkening down the ends of the outside of that framing in order to change the viewer's focus to the centre of the image. I See You by David Hunter. The eye of the bird is sharp, and that is what draws the viewer's attention. The feathers have detail, though getting a bit soft towards the front, and the beak loses a bit towards the tip. The background is nicely out of focus with no major distractions, and so the bird stands out as a result. The tonal range has been well handled. A good image. Star Trails Baker's Beach Mono by Stephen Matthews. The longer exposure has captured the star trails circling around the southern pole. This has created a pleasing background to the foreground hut, which has been suitably brightened with some light painting. The veranda post and the fence posts appear to be converging to a point above the top of the frame. A straightening is likely to result in too much loss of the well-achieved circular pattern, and so it is a minor distraction. The City in Repose by David Bluedorn. This city has been well captured with detail from front to back. It is tonally uniform, which means that the author has not told the viewer what they want them to see. There is a myriad of housing and taller buildings, but there is no focal point for the eye to settle on. This is an image that you could hang on the wall and keep looking at and always find something new in it. And because of this, and in spite of the lack of a focal point, I have elevated this image from my initial assessment. One monochrome entry was given a Merit Award. Last Light Waraipo Arm by Anne Starkey. The viewer is immediately drawn to the light slopes of the range. There is texture, shapes, lights and dark. The clouds are moody, and that keeps the viewer's eye from escaping from the top of the image. There is detail to explore before returning to the slopes. The water also adds shapes and textures, and it balances the amount of the clouds. A well-seen and processed image by the author. No monochrome honours were awarded. I am including some images from my own entries in the Entrance Camera Club Advanced Grade Mono Print. I also belong to the Castle Hill RSL Photography Club, where I have been a member since 2013, and I am now a past president. I have also joined the Hawkesbury Camera Club, just to add more to my interests. I have branched out into some portraits to have a change from nature, sports, action, although I still do many photographs in these genres. I chose the award monos to show the tonal range that makes a mono stand out. A mono is simply not changing the image from colour to mono via Lightroom or Photoshop button. The best way to get a good mono is to ensure that the image has a full dynamic range by making adjustments in the basic panel in Lightroom or Adobe Camera Raw. And when the image is converted to mono, there are still adjustments that can be made using the colour sliders. Adjusting the underlying colour is the key to a striking mono. Nik Silver Effects is the best package to get the best mono image. Some of these images have achieved awards internationally, and I am currently working towards the bronze medal for the Australian Photographic Society Excellence Medal. Thanks for the opportunity to judge you again this year, and I hope that my comments are useful to your members. Peter.